I was very surprised if I saw your biography. I remarked two things. One, that you studied in Glasgow, and the other hand, that you were born in Switzerland. And immediately when I saw the painting, I think everybody has a little bit the same feeling, I imagine. I was thinking, how does these two elements influence your work? Because if you think on Switzerland, of course, you're thinking on Hodler. And if I see your work, I'm fascinated by Hodler was making his landscape paintings and how you are doing that. And there's a kind of similarity. And secondly, Glasgow is, of course, Macintosh, and is this idea of total Gesamtkunstwerk, and this idea of abstraction, this idea of all-around work that fulfills the complete space. How are you linked to these two, or is this completely?
I think I'm really connected to Swiss arts, and I really, it's something that I don't really like to to present, because this idea of like, oh, I'm connected to what we call like the world nation, or like you know, I really never put that out in my, but in the same way, the landscape that you grow up, and maybe like the cultural environment that you grow up when you a child, is probably like making you somehow your identity a little bit. So like, I think Swiss painters, Vallotton, Hodler, or Cuno, Amiet, even like Berkeley, I mean, quite a lot actually. And then maybe the Glasgow thing is a very different thing. It's like I studied arts in Lausanne, and actually didn't study painting. I studied like first cinema, and then I went to like this kind of weird computer design kind of section, like kind of department, which I loved, and I was doing a lot of 3D computers, kind of animations, kind of abstract animations, and also I was doing Teapot in 3D at that point, and I was really fascinated about those kind of softwares. I was really loving it, and at the same time I was doing my landscapes and stuff. And well, then the school finished, and I stayed like for 3 years in Lausanne, and I just wanted to go out basically, and Glasgow came up for a few reasons, but kind of randomly, to be honest. But I didn't want to go to a big city. Somehow I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go to Berlin or Paris or London, let's say, like the close from Switzerland. And I was hearing that Glasgow was great, and I think I heard, because my great-grandmother was Scottish, maybe I had this kind of like mythology of it or something.
And talking about the Macintosh or Glasgow, and that's very amazing in your work, that you don't seem to make a difference between high art, decorative art, murals, painting. So everything comes together, and this kind of totality of approaching everything, every technique, every attitude, and put it on the same level. Don't estimate one higher or lower than the other. It's quite something coming from where Macintosh was.
That period, especially, for sure. Yeah, that, I mean, it's true that we've been like going through. But we've been through like an idea that art and design was totally different, and also like illustration and decorative art became like words that are very not. If you say, oh, that's very decorative for an artwork, usually it's not very positive. Or even if, I mean, now it's kind of changing a little bit, but if you were saying, oh, it's very pretty or beautiful, it was kind of like a bad thing to say, or decorative, or it's very designy or whatever. Like, and I mean, there were some periods of art that was very different. Like most of the Matisse late works, the word decorative is on it. So, like the word decorative was really used also in the Nabis kind of the group. They used decorative like a lot in a lot of the paintings. And I think what happened is like John Armleder, like the Swiss artist, was teaching in where I was, and he was like living in Geneva. And I think he always had this really big kind of idea about the hierarchy between design and decorative art and art, and he was like merging them into those furniture sculpture and like doing all those kind of tapestry, like wall painting, and like hanging paintings on it. And I think the impact that this artist had on the local scene in the French part of Switzerland, like especially Lausanne, was massive. Oil painting, you have the possibility of layering and changing all the time. And I was doing that before the pastel. That's why I changed to do pastel, because I didn't want to just constantly trying to find the right color, for example. You know, well, let's say like this, I will be like, oh, this tree there, maybe the red one is too red for me. So if I was oil, I could paint it again. Maybe, so I do like another color, and then, oh, actually it's better red. So you just keep changing, and it never ends.
Which is not possible with the pastel.
Not possible with the pastel. So you kind of obliged by the technique that's just go with what you feel and be like more in a way bold with your decision, and that's also really exciting when you walk. It's like really like you can't really do mistakes because you can't cover it up.
And what happens between the concept, once you have the concept? Because I imagine you're going out from observation, a certain observation in nature or photographs or whatever, and the realization. There's a whole process going in between. I remember when Thibault once saying, I have the concept, but every brush stroke I put or every paint I put, I'm going further and further away from my basic idea. Is this similar to you? Or?
Yeah, I think a lot of artists, or at least painters, will like quite often say that the ideas are the biggest enemy of of the creative process. Because it's ideas, it's like something that you have when you wake up. Like, oh, I have this amazing idea for a painting, and obviously you start, and it because it's really when a painting is good, it has to emerge in the process. I mean, it is kind of a romantic idea of the painting process, but I really kind of believe in it from anyway my small experience in it. But when something is really surprising to me, and naturally probably to the person that look at the painting, it's when something really happened in the process that I didn't expect and I didn't kind of plan beforehand. So I think what happened is you have like ideas of maybe subjects, and then you draw a lot of things, and then you go to the canvas, and that you kind of wait to like in this very specific moment of making the painting, that's something like much more that are going to come. Like if you like, well, that's kind of obvious with the tree painting, because it was like, oh, I'm going to paint a tree. That's not the greatest idea. Like it's kind of like, oh, that's a fantastic idea. So like you wait. That's when you're going to do the tree. Something like the sponge that you're trying to do with the world around you. Like kind of like put it out. This thing when you start to draw without calculating too much. The only thing that you can do probably as an artist is just, I think, like it's really being excited and looking forward to go to the studio and work and have this belief in what is art.
You work very hard, I have the impression. If I see how long you're working, and I saw on internet how many things you made, you're very disciplined, no? Or not?
No, it's not this. It's really, I love doing it. I think it's really
kind
like
of discipline, of course.
But it's like I don't have any other things that I really like. For example, I don't go to the nature to like, I don't do sports. I don't have any hobby. The only thing that I do is like, so I do like if I'm on my conference, if I'm on holiday, the only thing that I want to do is
Jacques Brel calls talent. Talent is willing to do something.
Yeah, I think it's like if you put everybody in the room and you ask the person to play tennis 8 hours a day for 20 years, there's a good chance that the person will be good at it at the end.